Hello all. I usually make these things up off the top of my head, so these are very difficult recordings to make. I have a lot of respect for teachers and instructors of online courses that put these courses together because I really realize how much time they have to spend video editing and various things like that. Me being just a developer who's not really an online instructor of any way, shape, or form, I don't really take the time out to do those things. I just kind of like to record these videos and put them out there, mistakes and all, or bad grammar and all, and just see if anybody out there can benefit from some of the information. That's great. For this one, it's been a while, but for this one, I've still been really into the whole microservices Docker area. And I've taken my learning one step further and trying to get more familiar with the service mesh and the concepts of service mesh and how to use one. And the one out there that has documentation as well as a course that I'd like recommend is called Istio. And before I get into that, I did want to mention um, I took this course here, and it's this, one second here. It's this ASP.NET Core course with microservices to a website based on microservices. It's an excellent course. I know I recommended it in the previous video. In the process of working with Istio and all that, one of the exercises that I did was to convert everything inside of here. I actually had these microservices pushed up into Kubernetes as well as deployed up to the AWS cloud. But then I thought I would take it one step further after taking an Istio course that I'll recommend. I thought I would take this one step further and actually put Istio and configure that on top of this whole application just as a really good learning exercise. Unfortunately, since these courses were created by two other instructors, I'm not really at liberty to make 100% of that code available. So unfortunately, this is one of those things where when I show you the demos here, I can show you some things, but I won't be able to show you everything because out of respect for the instructors and all that, you know, it's one of these things where they would like to get students to learn by purchasing their courses, and with all due, you know, respect, they're right in that case. Had I created these courses myself, I would have had no problem sharing this, but I just wanted you guys all to know that I'll do the best I can here, but I won't be able to share the code completely. But if you were to go ahead and purchase these courses on your own and take them, then what I'm showing you here in these demos would be enough to get you guys going. So anyways, that's one course taken. One thing I've noticed in the process of converting this over to Istio, basically I have in my GitHub a compose directory with .NET microservices, which we're basically taking the code from this course and putting it up into the Kubernetes cloud. A little has changed since Kubernetes 1.1 and 1.4, and basically to get the Istio working and going, I was using the latest version of Kubernetes, which is version 1.14 with Istio. So I had to go ahead and do a little upgrading of all the compose files, the deployments in this compose directory. And you could always go there and see what it is. But in a nutshell, not a lot has changed, but as you can see, just in the last 3 months or so, on the right-hand side, these are some of the things I had to change in all of my deployment files. I'll just show one just as a quick thing right here. The API version has changed a little bit. As you can see, the old one was beta, the new one's V1. And also with the new version of Kubernetes, they went ahead and required the selector with the match labels. And then other than that, these things I wouldn't really pay attention here. I was just kind of, you know, adding some extra things inside of here when I was getting this to work within the Istio service mesh. But predominantly, I actually have all these converted inside of here. It's just these short changes. So the next thing I would like to show you, so having got that recommended right here, the course that I use to actually learn Istio Istio is, like you said, one of the more popular service meshes created by Google. The course that I used was this Udemy course, Istio Hands-On for Kubernetes by Richard Chesterwood. Again, like his last course where he creates, it's called like Kubernetes in AWS. I can't recommend this course enough. I went ahead and purchased it. I knew a little bit about Istio before I purchased this and the whole concept of service mesh. You know, you have Azure App Fabric and some of the other things and other platforms. But for this one, I kind of wanted to see what this was about. And so I purchased this close to a month ago and disciplined myself to go through it in detail. And he takes basically the microservices application that he wrote, which he walks through in his other course, which I took and I'd recommend you guys take. But he takes that application and actually adds the Istio service mesh layer on top of it and walks you through it. So he'll explain to you like what service meshes are. He'll explain how you can run it locally, which is what I did here, and I'll go ahead and show you the end result there. Nice concept of dark releases, canaries, virtual services, how you can use circuit breakers, how you can test your microservices by purposely generating faults, which is a good thing that you want to be able to do. He is making some recommendations or requirements there that you do understand Kubernetes. So I would recommend that you go ahead and at least learn Kubernetes from a basic standpoint. And again, he's got another course out there, and there's plenty of other courses out there that do really good job on that. But anyways, if not for this, is the course that I took from him is basically what prepared me to take that other course with the .NET microservices and convert that over and get that running within an Istio service mesh. So I'm not really going to explain in great detail on what a service mesh is and all that, because his course will explain that too. But I would like to mention, if you go to istio.io.docs here, you know, there's some good reading material right here. This has like everything that you need to know to set up the Istio service mesh, along with examples. So when you're taking his course, he will actually refer you to this documentation quite a bit and walk through a lot of the APIs and the references here as he gets his services started up. But in the long story short, the service mesh and what it is. So basically with Kubernetes, the whole architecture itself, orchestration, it orchestrates your containers, and your container engines do not have to be Docker, although 99% of the time they probably will be Docker. They could be Containerd or Rocket, but anyways, so you have a whole application broken out into several microservices, and you can use that within Kubernetes alone, and just by using deployments, replicas, replica sets, you can have each of your individual services run in deployments, which behind the scenes Kubernetes will go ahead and create pods for you. And you know, you can have a lot of success doing it that way. And his previous course and others actually show you how to do things like that. Where Istio comes into play, though, is it's another set of services that sit on top of that layer in the orchestration engine. You don't really need Kubernetes in order to run Istio. You can, service engines, you can, Envoy is like another service mesh per se. But anyways, a service mesh is an extra layer of software that you would deploy alongside your Kubernetes cluster. So it's not really relevant to Kubernetes. Any kind of a distributed architecture, like an orchestration framework, could benefit from a service mesh. So think of it like you have your microservices application already running inside of your Kubernetes cluster. You may have authentication pod or a deployment. You may have an order entry deployment. You may have a product catalog API in the back. Well, now with the service mesh, what that's going to do is that's going to allow your services and such to basically communicate to each other through proxies, and the service mesh is going to intercept a lot of that traffic and give you benefits such as telemetry, which is going to allow you to load balance and monitor your system, and then you can make use of nice graphing charts, CPU utilizations, much in the way that you could like with in the AWS cloud, where you can use like some of the monitoring tools with AWS as well as Azure. And so it uses proxies behind the scenes. You could also introduce canary deployments. You can do things like dark releases. You can add service discovery. Also, some nice things is you can literally add circuit breaking technology where you don't even have to write your own circuit breaker code for fault tolerance. So there's quite a few benefits that Istio gives to you. And the way they do that is they inject sidecar containers. So I'm going to actually show you a little bit of a screenshot from the course itself, but I can't really give away too much. But I think I'd like to at least give credit to this Istio hands-on course, and it's where I have my notes and stuff like that. So what you're looking at right here is just assuming that you have your 3 microservices. This is just an example running inside of your Kubernetes cluster. And without the service mesh or without Istio, you just basically have these blue boxes where you have a container running in each pod. Now, when you add Istio itself, what Istio does is it injects yet another pod alongside, another container alongside your main container inside of each of your pods, so that when you're communicating, when you're doing traffic, when you've got this particular pod communicating to this particular pod, or let's just say microservice, instead of going directly back and forth through services, they're actually going to go through proxies, and these proxies will intercept that. And that's where you can do things like load balancing. You can add, out of the box, basically TLS, various benefits. You can use tools like Grafana. You can do distributed tracing, and I can show you some demos. I may run actually a couple of videos, standalone videos, just to show some of these pieces here. So what happens again, Istio is going to use sidecar containers, which act as proxies. So in this particular chart, and again, I give credit to the course right there, you have these 3 microservices needing to communicate to each other. They don't necessarily communicate to each other directly. They all go through these proxies to communicate to each other. And these proxies are really a part of the Istio, the whole Istio environment per se. And there's different pieces, but as containers communicate to one another, these proxies will, like I said, intercept that traffic. And then you'll have some tools available to you where you can analyze traffic as a result of these proxies. So taking this diagram one step further, as you can see right here, you've got your control plane. Now you've got your microservices, and Istio is actually installed into your cluster. You'll have to install it yourself manually here. But again, I can show you this course right here will actually show you all the steps as well as the documentation. But that example above now, as you can see, we've broken out the components on the control plane a little bit more in Istio. So you've got your 3 containers inside of your inside of your pods. You're running your whole microservices application. Now you have your sidecar containers that Istio injects. And the way Istio does that is it looks for specific tags, and you actually have to label your namespace. So in this example, I'm running everything in the default namespace, but typically in production environments, you may actually, inside of your cluster, you may have different namespaces for different types of applications. And so what you'll want to do in that case, when you're installing Istio or whatever and installing the mesh, you'll want to apply the correct namespace for Istio to look at. And so behind the scenes, Istio is going to inject into those pods within that namespace all of the sidecar container that it needs for each of the pods. And then the sidecar containers are these proxies that will actually communicate and direct traffic through the Istio service mesh. And some of the elements that you're looking at right here, you've got like Istio telemetry, pilot, and training. These are just some of the other components running within the service mesh. And so the architecture right here, and I'm not, again, I won't go into too much detail. This is just an example. So you actually have your microservices. You got 2 microservices, and you've got your sidecar proxies, which are actually communicating. So down here, think of this, you know, in Kubernetes, how you've got your Kubernetes architecture where you have your control plane. You know, you'll actually have your main node out there, which will have various components. And then you've got your individual worker nodes, which will have, you know, like your kube proxy and some of those other components. Well, Istio is no different. So the Istio service mesh is made up of several components like your mixer and your pilot and your galley and citadel. And most people, if you're just trying to get this up and running, don't really need to know what these are, but it's nice to know that they're there and what they're doing. But, you know, in no particular order. Istio, just like Kubernetes, takes your configuration files, like your YAML files, and it applies it directly into the cluster. That's basically what Galley is going to do. So Galley is going to read in your Kubernetes YAML file, and it's going to transform it into an internal structure that Istio understands. And then Istio can work with non-Kubernetes environments as well. And the courses mention, you know, such non-Kubernetes orchestration environments like Consul, for example. But anyways, that's what the Galley does, is whenever you're, you know, you've got your Istio configuration files, especially for Kubernetes, you'll create those as YAML files, and Galley's just going to do the adaption or the conversion. Then you have Pilot, which is another very important key component. It converts your internal structure that Istio understands, and then basically it's going to broadcast that into a format that Envoy, which is another set of, it's like Envoy is another system, if you will, that runs within Istio, or that Istio uses. And it's also responsible for the configuration of the proxies. Citadel handles all of your TLS certificates behind the scenes, so Istio can communicate traffic to one another within your service mesh over SSL. And why would you want to do that? If you're running this already inside of a cluster that is quote unquote protected behind a firewall and already secured. Well, because Kubernetes itself is a distributed node architecture, some of your nodes may actually be running on physical nodes, maybe running on different networks and computers, and that traffic itself needs to be encrypted. So that's kind of where Citadel comes into play. And then you have Mixer, and Mixer is going to be dealing with policy checks and telemetry. And telemetry is like your data, your tracing. And there's some pretty nice out-of-the-box web applications when you're installing the Istio mesh that I can show and demo later on, such as like Grafana and you know, Kiali, and they will allow you to actually monitor your applications. So that's very nice. So with that, I may actually stop this video. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to actually start up my Istio service mesh, and so I'm running Minikube on my Mac, and so I've just went ahead and did a Minikube start. And when you take his course, he'll show you, some of these are actually, some templates are coming from his course, and I just modified these ever so slightly to get them to work with this other .NET microservices course. But that's what I'm going to do, is start up the Istio service mesh before I start up the microservices application. And it would help them, let's see right here. So we'll start up the first one. I can go into more detail on these, or I wish I could, but his course will actually explain it. But there's certain steps that you'll want to use when you're applying these. So in other words, if you look at these Istio configuration files, they're really nothing more than just Kubernetes configuration files. So if you know Kubernetes and YAML and all that, these Istio configuration files will pretty much look familiar to you. It's just some of these things here, the documentation will actually refer to them. But in order to start up the service mesh, you have to start up, you have to run these files in a certain order. But anyways, as you can see, this is regular YAML. So that's what Galley is going to do, is take this YAML and convert it to a format that Istio understands. So what I want to do, I'm going to run a PO. Istio is going to create everything in a namespace called Istio system. And for the first one, I just want to make sure that these custom resource definitions have been created, because these are jobs and they have. So when that's completed, now I can go ahead and run the second one right here. So in this particular course here, I borrowed it. He created using Helm, and he shows you how to use Helm to go ahead and literally create a set of deployments for Istio that'll give you what you need. He called it Minikube Reduce, but it gives you just enough to run these applications inside of Minikube. So as you can see, this is a pretty big file. And like I said, he used Helm to do that. And this is about 20,000 lines, but this actually is going to install the Istio service mesh inside of our Kubernetes cluster. So I'll go ahead and apply that, apply -F. And this will actually take a little bit of time. As you can see, it's running an awful lot of configuration items, from RBAC to services to deployments, Jaeger, which is like another distributed tracing engine, and just various things that the Istio service mesh needs. Now, this one takes a while to run. This could take upwards of about 10 minutes. And what I like to do is get PO, and I like to just do a watch on the namespace Istio system while that's running. And you want to make sure that you have enough memory. So I'm actually using close to 9 gigabytes of memory on my Mac right here. So as you can see, these are all the various components. You've got Pilot, you know, you got your Galley component. We've got Grafana. We've got Ingress gateways, which very similar to the Kubernetes gateways, where you can have your Ingress controllers. That way you don't need to have multiple cloud-provided load balancers distributing incoming traffic and doing load balancing to your nodes. You just need to have one, which is your Ingress gateway, and then you can, you know, have further control over that and save money. So, and then of course you've got Prometheus, which allows you to do your online monitoring and gathers telemetry information. So it's basically starting up the Istio service mesh here. So I will pause that. So I went ahead and waited for that to finish. So as you can see, all of the different applications right here inside of Istio have a status of, have a state of running, including some of the completed ones from our previous step right here. So now we can run our next step right here, which is going to be Pleae, which is a really nice web application which allows you to monitor and actually do things inside of your Istio service mesh. So we're going to create a secret for that, because Pleae needs a secret. That's relatively fast. And then this is where we're going to actually label our default namespace, number 4. And with that, basically, we're just saying, here's the name of the namespace that we want Istio to basically tag, so that the service mesh will know which containers inside of which namespace it should attach its sidecar containers to. So now that that's running, we can actually start up our application, and then we can start running like these individual rules, like your gateways and things of that nature. So remember how I was saying recording these videos and creating these videos are very tricky and can be very tough. Case in point, I just realized with my headset that I have on that the little mouthpiece was not close to my mouth. So I'm going to have to stop this recording and go back and see if the audio is coming in clear, and then I'll have to create another video. So I may have several videos, like a part 1, part 2, and part 3, but I'd hate to go all the way through only to realize that the first part, the audio was very hard to hear, and then I would have to do that piece again. So I'm going to stop this video. This will be part 1, and then the second one, may end up having to redo that again, and then the second one I'll continue on with part 5. So anyways, we'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.